Wednesday the 16th of October 2024 was a significant day for the Glenbrook Vintage Railway, as their diesel locomotive DC-4818 ventured out onto the main line for the first time since the end of her overhaul. This wasn't a public excursion, but rather just a test run down to Waharoa and back. It was the first time I had seen this locomotive running in around 9 years. 4818 is a fairly recent addition to the GVR's fleet, having arrived on their line in April 2019 after her acquisition from KiwiRail. Between 2010 and 2015, she hauled commuter trains in Auckland with the SA coaches and SD cab cars. But following an overhaul at the Pukekohe workshop, she's now looking as good as new, complete with the same international orange livery seen on DBR 1254. This livery is often nicknamed Fruit Salad by rail fans, although I'm not sure what a cheesy song by the Wiggles has got to do with New Zealand liveries. Here's some old footage from the days when 4818 was still in KiwiRail service, recorded at Papatoetoe Station in November 2014. We saw two of the regular KiwiRail freight trains in Waharoa while we waited for DC-4818 to arrive. DL-9112 was held in the loop with train 491 to Mount Maunganui, while DL-9607 went the other way with train 482 to Kinleith. The Hawes Street crossing at Waharoa is mostly the same as loads of other crossings throughout New Zealand, but it retains two sets of old incandescent lights instead of having them replaced by LEDs. Further down the Kinleith branch, more specifically in the town of Putaruru, there's another crossing that retains one set of incandescent lights. The old lights at Waharoa also sit in contrast to the modern LED signals. Meanwhile, the nearby Kaimai Cheese Cafe and deli store now sits in an abandoned state. The cafe sadly closed in 2020 as a result of the people aggressively normalising dumb electric motorbikes in Cambridge. And in case you didn't understand what I just said, it was an acronym. For whatever reason, the crossing activated several minutes before DL-9112 started moving again. Even when the DL was still a fair way off, an impatient motorist still drove around the barriers. By the time DC 4818 and DBR 1254 arrived, they were running around 40 minutes late. The vehicle marshalled in between the locomotives was AG 49, a former FM guards van that's now used on the GVR's mainline excursions. The GVR publicly announced this test run on their Facebook page the previous day, and as expected, other rail fans came along to see DC 4818. The DC and DBR stayed in the loop for around 26 minutes before heading back to Glenbrook, and during the layover, some of the crew inspected the DC while others went across the street for lunch from the bakery. I randomly had the idea to use Maxine as a nickname for DC 4818, with the name coming from a song by Sharon O'Neill. Coincidentally, that song was released in the same year when 4818 was rebuilt from a DA, and now she's one of 7 DCs currently in preservation. The others are 4248, 4369, 4375, 4421, 4536, and 4876. Meanwhile, a small number of their classmates, I forget exactly how many, are still in service with KiwiRail, including 4260. The DC class, of which there used to be 85 examples, are all rebuilds of former DA class locomotives, originally built by General Motors of Canada between 1961 and 1967. Then they were rebuilt by Clyde Engineering or NZR's Hutt workshops between 1978 and 1983. In the case of DC 4818, she was built in 1964 as DA 1481, then rebuilt in 1983. With her new coat of paint, the real thing now looks much younger than she actually is. Although these locomotives have 6 axles, that's 3 per bogie, the middle axle on each bogie is unpowered. This is also the case where the DBR class is concerned, and for reference, the DBR class are former DB or EMD G8 locomotives, built in 1965 and 66, then rebuilt in the early 1980s. DC 4818 and DBR 1254 unexpectedly turned around on the triangle, allowing 4818 to take the lead again for the return trip to Glenbrook. I thought I'd have DL 9607 bookend the day's rail fanning, so later in the afternoon I went back to the Strand in Tauranga to see her returning with train 483. As for DC 4818, well done to the GVR crew for their efforts in restoring her back to working order.